Okay, so we're in my kitchen today, peoples, because I thought I would have a go at cooking a vegetarian roll for you. The filming might be just a tad dodgy because there's only me here. And I thought for people that, we're in the middle of a credit crunch, we're poor, and, while we can survive, while we can cook, we'll survive. But also, people say, "Oh, vegetarian food is boring. Oh, there's, it's always difficult," or something like that. So I'm going to kind of like prove the opposite, really. Okay, this is a vegetarian roll, as I say. Right now, in this saucepan, then I have cooking. The first of my shortcuts. I'm using a number of shortcuts, and depending on what you've got in your kitchen and that sort of thing, depends on whether or not you use it or not. But what I've got going on here is some boiling water. Which I've added to that some frozen vegetables from a bag that I want to use up in my freezer. I've got I've got a chopped up potato. You can see I'm not really a cook, so I'm just giving it a go really and having a bit of fun here. I've got also chopped up a courgette. Okay, the potato I've actually cooked up into small pieces because that's really going to cook now until the potato is done. Okay, and basically I started chopping at 25 to 7, so you can pretend it's the end of a working day when in fact it's actually the last day of my summer holidays. So I started chopping at 25 to 7. That's been on now for about 2 minutes or so. Whilst I get the next bit of this prepared, I'm going to pause for a moment. Okay, so actually, the delight of this recipe really is that you can actually add anything you like to it, right? And in this bowl here, I've got about a handful of spinach, just over a handful in fact, which which will actually sort of melt down. Okay, it just reduces like nobody's business the minute that it hits some heat, which is why I've not put it in a pan to boil, because it's going to go in the oven. So now underneath there, which will all get sort of mixed up in a minute, I've got a tin of kidney beans, which I've rinsed all the gunk off that they came in. Those are in there now as well. They'll get mashed up. Okay, now while we're still waiting for those to come to the boil, I've got a clean surface here. Okay, which I will wipe again in a second because there's a little bit of water there. This is just roll pastry, all right? This is just basically another shortcut that I'm using. Okay, it's it just comes as a roll like that, and it'll open out. Okay, so you don't even need to roll anything, which for me is wonderful. I don't normally cook pastry things, and I'm a little bit scared. This might be how not to cook a vegetarian roll. Okay, but we'll see how it gets on. All right, so I'll just quickly wipe that up, and then I'll put that out, and you'll see what happens. So here, people, is some pastry that's just been rolled out then. In fact, it hasn't even been rolled out. That blue wrapper there is what it came wrapped up in, and it needs a little while to defrost at room temperature, but that's now opened up. Now I have to say here that roll, that packet of pastry you get 2 rolls like that, and it was £2.50. All right, so that's £1.25 worth of pastry. I've got about half a bag of spinach there. It's about £1, so that's about 50p. A tin of kidney beans, probably also about 50p. The vegetables in there are really a few pence worth. From various different sources that I had to use up, really. And so really, for about £2, what we're getting here is a huge roll here. This will actually make probably enough to feed about 3 or 4 people here for £2. Okay, obviously I'm gonna put some oven chips with this, really, but put something with it that you want to put with it, some salad, or even a tin of baked beans or something like that, and you've got a lovely meal for that will feed 3 people, or me for a couple of helpings, 2 or 3 helpings here for for £2, and that is, I think, actually well worth it. All right, these vegetables are taking rather longer than I wanted them to, but even so, it's probably been about 10 minutes of cooking time so far. Okay, I've put a lid on the pan here so that it keeps the heat in. They might cook a bit quicker. Right, so now Okay, I've got this bowl of spinach and kidney beans. Do be careful with kidney beans. Use a tin, because if you use raw kidney beans, you have to soak them overnight and then boil them away for 3/4 of an hour and that sort of thing. Otherwise, you'll die. I remember very vividly Esther Ranson on That's Life many years ago, and a case of somebody who died because they ate raw kidney beans. So don't do it, peoples, all right? You really have to boil them away. So a tin of kidney beans is what you need. All right, these are these vegetables that have been boiling away in the saucepan then. Those are being added rather clumsily to this bowl. Okay, now I'm going to add some herbs and spices here. Oh, it's got all steamy. Hey, a little bit of steam didn't do anyone any harm. Right, okay, it's probably going to work wonders for my complexion. Now, so what I'm going to add to that then, all right, because I like it. So again, you can, a little bit of, what you like does you good. So what I've got here, some coriander, all right. It's all well steaming up my lens. I'm very sorry. Okay, I might just pause the video for a second while I unsteam my camera. Yeah, so I added some coriander. That's what those are. All right, that's coriander leaf from a jar. Okay, I'm going to add some salt and pepper in a second. All right, let's put the camera down for a moment. Just bear with me. So a little bit of salt. I just put a tiny bit on my hand because you've got to be a bit careful with the amount of salt you put into things. Okay, pepper. Okay. Okay, so some pepper there. Now this is called asafoetida. Okay, asafoetida. I'll put the jar up for you. asafoetida. All right, it's sometimes also known as hing. Okay, you can leave this out if you want to. All right, but it's quite often used in Indian cookery as a substitute for onions and garlic, because strict Hindus are not allowed to use onions and garlic. And I like a lot of vegetarian food that I get from those Hindu websites. They're really good. All right, so I've actually eradicated a lot of onions and garlic from my diet as well. All right, but here, so there's some hing. Okay, I'm going to add some paprika. Oops, daisy. Trying to do this one-handed. It's not easy to film and cook at the same time. So ideally I get someone to do it for her, but there's some lovely red colour gone in there now. Okay, and that is probably all I'm going to do from the spice thing. Now I might just add a little bit of butter to this just to mash it down with. I'll see how it goes with, but it does have to be mashed to a pulp. All right, so I'll pause while I do. Okay, so that didn't need any butter at all. All right, so it cuts down the fat as well, gang. All right, and that's just been mixed down. You can see that the spinach has just mashed itself in nicely and heated itself up. Okay, give it a jolly good stir. All right, and kidney beans give it a lovely purpley colour as well. Okay, you've got everything you need here, gang. You've got, in the pastry, you've got some carbohydrates, you've got protein, you've got from the beans, you've got all your vitamins from the vegetables here. So, and iron in the spinach. I think there's iron in the spinach. Okay, so yeah, and it's absolutely lovely. So the next thing to be done is for some of this to be spooned onto here. Okay, or as much of it as I can get there, and I think I've probably made too much. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with the rest of that mixture, but anyway, some of it's going to go onto there. Okay, gang, this is the bit that I've actually been dreading here. This is the mixture as put onto the pastry, all right, and you can see that I've sort of left enough this side so that I can try and sort of pull it over and wrap it up. So I'll kind of have a go at doing that. Yeah, you see, I don't really use pastry that often, and yeah, this is kind of like stuffed to the gills. There are places here where it's going to bulge out at the seams, as it were, but I've tried to seal it down a little bit with wet hands and sort of fold it at the ends, sort of thing here. All right, so now this is going to take about 15 minutes in a preheated oven. I've just got it preheated to the most it'll go to, really, because again, I'm not fabulous at it, but I'll have a little look at it every so often. Okay, I'm going to lightly grease a baking tin. or the closest I've got to a baking tin, which is a grill pan, and then just pop it in and see how it goes. All right. So gang, that's probably had about half an hour in the oven. I decided to put it on foil rather than grease the baking tin. It was rather difficult to transfer it into the oven in the end. I ended up mutilating it a little bit, but hopefully that will slice up nicely. Okay, I've got some fruit, which is basically some raspberries and blackberries, which I've, not blackberries, gooseberries I think they are. No, they're not gooseberries. What are these? Blueberries, that's what they are, blueberries. Okay, I get my mobile phone mixed up here with it. So basically mixed up with some yoghurt and one of those granola things, basically, which I've sprinkled on top, which will keep me happy in front of the telly tonight. Okay, Hare Krishna.